Hello and welcome to today's episode of the Power of Your Mind podcast. You're listening to episode number 148. I'm Victoria Gallagher. I love those numbers, 48. I'm Victoria Gallagher, Law of Attraction Hypnotist and #1 bestselling author of Practical Law of Attraction, Align Yourself with the Manifesting Conditions and Successfully Attract Your Desires. I'm also the founder of HipTalk.com and HypnoCloud apps, which gives you access to over 500 hypnosis recordings right in the palm of your hand. So be sure to download that app from the app stores today. Today, I have a very special guest with me, Paul Ross. Paul Ross is a master practitioner and trainer of NLP, a master hypnotist, author, speaker, and mindfulness instructor. For over 30 years, he's taught people the power of language to influence, sell, persuade, heal, and turn stumbling blocks into stepping stones. And he can be found at speakerpaulross.com.
Are we video or just audio, by the way?
We are both video and audio.
So I just want to tell the audience who's watching this, you will see my supervisor, NECA, my 1.5-year-old dilute tortoiseshell cat. She likes to supervise when I do these broadcasts.
I love it. I love it. And I've got my Panther Velvet right behind me, and he probably won't come out because he's a little shy, but you can also see Mr. Sebastian down the hall, and you might get a little bit of a sighting of Emerald, our gray cat. So Paul and I have been having a little discussion, and it's always great to have guests on the show that love cats, because I know if you love cats, then you're an amazing person just by virtue of that. But Paul's also a fellow author of Subtle Words That Sell: How to Get Your Prospects to Convince Themselves to Buy and Add Top Dollars to Your Bottom Line. And so beautiful book cover, and congratulations on that. And today, Paul is going to share some of his insights on hypnosis and NLP. So welcome to the show, Paul.
Thank you, and welcome. Thank you for having me. And Velvet, thank you for allowing me to be on Mom's show.
Yes. Yeah, he's been keeping me company today while I work on my next best-selling book.
That's fantastic.
Yes. So tell me a little bit, just your a little bit of your background, like how you got started in hypnosis and NLP, and, learn and helping to persuade people to.
Sure, Victoria. Well, I've always been an inquisitive kid. I've always been interested in how the mind works since I can remember, and read psychology books when I was in junior high school and high school because I had no friends. And
I can relate.
Interestingly enough, I really got into hypnosis and neurolinguistic programming after I got out of college because I couldn't get a date. Believe it or not, I was not always the incredibly handsome, irresistibly masculine man you're seeing and listening to right now, ladies and gentlemen. And so I couldn't find answers.
Hard to imagine.
No, but it's true. I went to therapy. I tried praying. I tried self-help books, and nothing worked. But when I stumbled on NLP around the age of 29, I knew this was something. Immediately, I knew right away. I don't know if you've ever had the experience, Victoria, if you were to stop and just sink inside your own imagination and remember what it's like to discover something that really changed who you are. Mm-hmm. And you just felt that pull that let you knew that this was the start of something amazing. That's the experience I allowed yourself to have when I first picked up my first book on NLP, and it solved my shyness problems with women. I got my first girlfriend at the age of 29. If you can imagine that, that's a big gap. It was an extremely painful gap, but And then NLP, as you may or may not know, has a very powerful hypnosis model. It's a conversational model for hypnosis. It's not the traditional, you will relax, imagine yourself visualizing going down a flight of stairs, which never worked for me anyway. But instead, it's based on the work of a very, very revolutionary thinker in hypnosis. I'm sure you know who I'm about to mention, Dr. Milton H. Erickson, who I think was to hypnosis what Einstein was to physics. He revolutionized the entire idea of what trance was about, rather than it being something that the hypnotic operator forced into the mind of the subject. It was a natural state that happened anyway, and you could evoke it through telling stories, metaphors, embedding suggestions within what appears to be in a normal, everyday conversation.
Is that, no, I thought maybe that was a picture of him on your wall back there, but no, I
No,
can
that's
see a
Tom
little bit.
Cruise.
Yeah, now I can see a little bit more clearly. But you know, it's interesting. While you're speaking to me, I actually feel like you might be using some of that language.
I used something in NLP called a switched referential index, which means I said, and I just discovered when I picked up the NLP book, I just discovered yourself recognizing.
Yes.
I didn't say I just discovered for myself. I said I just discovered yourself. I switched the reference from being about me to being about you. It created a temporary confusion in the conscious mind, which created a state of temporary suggestibility on the unconscious level.
I love that. Yeah, because I picked up on, I heard you say that, and then I'm kind of like, did he mean to say that? And like that.
Every word I say is meant like a chef doing a master recipe. I don't skip a step. I don't leave a word out. It's all done with deliberateness.
That is great. I love that. I love that.
And deliberation in language, using language with deliberateness, creates a tremendous ability to play with your world, expand your map of what's possible, to take apart the things that have been blocking you.
Tell me a little bit about, what every healer and every influencer should be asking themselves, before they begin any.
Absolutely. The first, I like to think of healing or influencing people, all of it, to be about states of consciousness. What state of consciousness, what state of mind do you want to be in when you move into influencing others, when you move into manifesting, when you move into being a healer? And you see a lot of people talk about being in a positive state, a state of believing that anything is possible. And I believe that you have to construct a state like that. Here's the challenge. I'll introduce it to you like this. In the following subject areas: losing weight, making money, and finding your ideal partner, how many millions of books and audio downloads do you think have been sold in the last 5 years? Not different titles, but actual copies. Give me a ballpark.
Billions. I'm gonna say.
Let's say 50 million, okay? In the United States. Then why don't we see 50 million people skinny, rich, and madly in love with their ideal partner?
Because I don't think they don't apply the information that they're reading about. I mean, they just go from book to book to book, and then I think you're going to say, though, that they fail to be able to put themselves into some sort of a state that they could manifest such a thing.
Well, here's the thing. I think what happens is, I'll give you a metaphor, and then I'll unpack it, because I love metaphors.
Okay.
When I was a little kid, my sister Anita, well, let me back up. I had this habit of breaking my little brother Stevie's toys. I just like to do it. For me, I learned about how things work by breaking them apart. And to this day, he's traumatized by it. Anyway, it was Hanukkah. It was Hanukkah time. I'm Jewish. And my sister Anita bought him a toy robot. This is back in 1966. And back then, toy robots, they did three things. You can make him go forwards, you can make him walk backwards, and you can make the lights in their eyes blink. Being what we call in humanistic psychology, a schmuck, I pressed forwards and backwards at the same time. The robot started to shake, Blue smoke came out of its butt as the wires caught fire. It fell over. The robot had this massive internal conflict. And so I think before we go to manifest the positive, we need to have a deep look at the deeply hidden unconscious patterns of negativity and stuckness. Otherwise, you're going to be like that robot fighting
Mm-hmm.
yourself. And if,
Mm-hmm.
as you're listening to me, you've ever found the process of personal change or personal growth or realization to be exhausting, like there's a part of you that's struggling and fighting against you, this is the structure of how things work. And what I'd like to do as we talk today is to unpack the structure of what gets in the way. The radical
Mm.
art of unblocking yourself is really
Oh,
what
I
I
love
would
that.
love
I
to
love
teach.
that. Yeah, unblock us. I think you're absolutely right. That before you can, and it's interesting because my book that I'm writing right now is on how to manifest your soulmate, and and I'm talking about the very first thing in my book before you could even move forward is you got to release the blocks, the things that are holding you back so it's interesting. I'm on the same page with you 100%,
Yeah,
that before you can
right,
like move forward, you got to release those blocks. So tell us,
right. Well,
tell us.
cool. So I think there are just two or three patterns. And interestingly enough, I learned this from my former career, which is not in my biography. I like to spring it on the hosts. Is my former career was as a dating coach. I used
Oh,
to take guys,
interesting.
I used to take guys who were like 30, 40-year-old virgins who'd never had a kiss in their life because they were so blocked, and teach them how to get out of their own way and unblock all those negative memories and low self-esteem and bad self-talk and all the rest of it. So the first step is not to build a positive mindset.
Hmm.
The first step is to build a state of what I call witness consciousness, where you can look at your beliefs rather than looking through them. See, Victoria, someone could come to me and say, Paul, I have a fear of public speaking. Can you heal that? And I can do it in 20 minutes. That's an incremental change. But the transformational change that ripples through every part of a person's life, social, finance, personal health, spiritual, is when they're no longer looking through their patterns and beliefs, but they're looking at them. So
Oh,
before you cultivate that positive state where you're going to manifest, you need to either at the same time or before cultivate that state of the clear, compassionate witness to your own experience. And you can only do that through a meditation practice. So before you manifest, meditate.
hmm.
When you meditate in a certain way, and we can unpack that for a minute, what I mean by it and what kind of meditation, over time, you develop the ability to notice your patterns arising with very little momentum. Imagine a train that's just pulling off the tracks and it's going 1 mile an hour. It's pretty easy to put the brakes on and stop the train. But if the train is doing 150 miles an hour and you throw back on those brakes, there's going to be a big problem. The train could derail. It could get off track. And if you've ever felt you've derailed your success, keep paying attention as you continue to listen carefully to what I'm speaking. Did you hear the command?
Of course,
All right.
yes.
Okay. So over time, as you learn to meditate in the way I'm going to give a little instruction on, your patterns will arise like that 1 mile an hour train instead of the 150 mile an hour. You'll begin to see them arising before they take hold, and you can then make a choice. We're told, you probably heard this old saying, you can take responsibility for your responses to any situation. You can learn from any experience. In theory, that's true. In practice, it's not for most people because they haven't learned to develop this witness consciousness state.
Hmm.
Does this make sense? So before
Absolutely.
you get
Hmm.
into that creative consciousness where you manifest, you better balance it or have as its partner, hand in hand, witness consciousness. So there's witness consciousness, creative consciousness, and will consciousness. Will has to do with focus, keeping your focus, keeping moving forward with actions, an action plan. So let's deal. Am I talking too much or is this cool?
No, this is great. This is perfect.
Okay.
You're at the perfect pace. I'm absorbing it.
All right.
I'm following along perfectly.
So let's get to witness consciousness, developing a meditation practice. There's a simple practice I do that takes 9 minutes a day. And it is a practice of what we call in Buddhism. I'm not a Buddhist, but I liked some of the ideas and the practices. It's called Vipassana. V-I-P. You're familiar with Vipassana.
Oh, very much.
Right.
I've been to 2 10-day meditation retreats. Yeah.
Okay. Probably Goenka. It's probably Goenka
Yes,
G.
that
Yeah.
is.
All right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I have a different teacher. He's not such a boot camp kind of thing where it's easy.
Okay.
But anyway, you pay.
Yeah, 9 minutes. That's pretty. Yeah.
Well, you pay attention first to the breath. What is the body actually doing when thoughts arise? You just allow the thoughts to be there and notice the moment they vanish. Because every thought, no matter how gripping, it will vanish eventually. And when it vanishes, you say gone in your mind.
Okay.
So you just
that,
focus on breathing. Then the next thing you do is switch to external sound. What are the sounds that you hear? Notice how sound arises. And if there's any visual imagery that comes along with the sound, like if I hear a bird chirping right now, briefly, I'll see a bird in my mind. I notice the moment that image disappears and I say gone. So what we're doing is noticing vanishing. When you notice disappearing, you begin to get really good at noticing the source from which everything appears. The source to which everything vanishes is also the source from which everything appears. And what the law of attraction is missing is, yes, we're looking for things to arise, but we're missing that when things vanish, we also can touch that place of unlimited possibility.
It's so interesting. I was just using law of attraction by saying this is like, the vanishing. You can use using law of attraction to continue to vanish your thoughts.
Yes. So the source from which everything arises is also the source to which everything vanishes. So you pay attention to that. And finally, you pay attention to your body, the feeling of your butt on the cushion. Oh, now I feel my lips are dry. You just let your attention drift back and forth. And what will happen, that conditions the mind over time to begin to handle more emotionally charged things. When you work out, thank you very much. I have a license for these guns. When you work out, if you're just beginning, you don't start with a 500-pound weights. You start from something that's easy. It's easy to pay attention to breath, body, sound. Take some practice. And once you build witness to that, you can then begin to witness your patterns of believing that are limited. And then you need to dismiss things with love. For example, if you have a repetitive pattern of thinking that says, I just can't succeed, rather than saying, I can succeed, if you do that, you're like the robot in my story. Instead, I say, thank you, beautiful, beloved thought. Thank you for coming up with the intent of being my teacher and my guide. I bless you now and release you now with love. Every time you bless and release something with love, you diminish its grip and it goes away. So don't fight the negative thought. Don't try to replace it with a positive thought, because then you'll get into conflict and it just becomes exhausting. And the negative thought has more momentum because it's been repeated so many times. It's like the train going 150 miles an hour, to return to my metaphor. I like to teach in metaphor. So instead, when I have thoughts coming up that say it's impossible to do that, I'll say, thank you, beautiful, beloved thought. Thank you for coming up with the intent of being my teacher and my motivator and my guide. I bless you on your way and I release you now with love. When you do that, when you can't fight negativity to death. You have to love your negativity to death. So that's something I got from my teacher. So once you begin to do that, then you clear the space to do the positive stuff, to use the creative mind. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I thoroughly believe that you have to acknowledge what is there, and so that's what, and when you actually, when you acknowledge it, it disappears.
Yep. And the other thing I practice is blessing. and being happy for the success of others. Today I was driving on the freeway coming back from a doctor's appointment, and I saw this gold-plated Rolls Royce behind me. At first I thought, that's scumbag. And I thought, no, wait a minute.
No, no,
He's
no.
enjoying that. Bless him. Please enjoy that car with safety and to the fullest extent that you can. Bless your heart. I blessed him for his prosperity. One of the number one blocks to manifesting is envy.
Mhm.
Envy, this is my quote. It originated from me. Write this down, everyone. Envy will shut the doors of grace. Envy shuts the doors of grace, because I think to be successful, there's the path of efforting. You have to make effort, and then you have to allow grace, unmerited favor, to come into your life. And when you're envious, envy on the unconscious level implies you don't believe you can have it. If I have, say, a dollar bill, you're probably not going to be envious of me because you know you can have it, or you already have it. So when you envy someone on the deep unconscious or super conscious level, you're saying, I can't have that, or I can't keep it. So get rid of envy. Envy and resentment are the spiritual poisons. I don't care how much positive manifesting you try to do. If you've got envy or resentment, so the cure for envy and resentment is to bless everyone for what they have and be grateful for what you have. Everyone teaches gratitude, but what they don't realize, the completion of gratitude is happiness for others. That's a great quote I came up with. The completion of gratitude is happiness for others. This is a Buddhist practice
I
called
love
metta.
that. Yeah, it's part of like the metta.
Metta, exactly. Wow, you are spot on. You are a
Yeah.
sharp person.
Well, thank you. I've been practicing this myself for quite a while. So, I'm, and I 100% on agreement with everything you're saying, because yeah, I mean, if you are feeling envy towards somebody, like you said, you're kind of like not believing that you can achieve that yourself, but you're also like almost like wishing that person ill will. And
Correct.
if you wanted to be in that person's shoes, you can't put yourself into a place that you feel is a bad place. If you're not going to do something to go against yourself, to make you the bad person that you
And
think
guess
that.
what? You'll never be happy, because once you achieve that level of success, you're lugging that envy and resentment right along with you. You'll be a wealthy, envious, and resentful person. So
Exactly.
start right now. Start right now with blessing what others have, and then claiming it for yourself.
I love it.
So if you're looking for your ideal partner, think of people who have their ideal partner, and say,
Mhm.
and put your hand on your heart and visualize them, and with feeling say, bless the union of Mary and Justin. May it flourish and prosper and deeper and grow. And I claim my union with my wonderful person for myself and herself or himself now. So
Yes.
I like to use the word claim, not
Mhm.
want, but claim.
Ooh,
Claim
that's
is what I
it's a
call
powerful word.
Claim is what I call ownership language. My, mine, claim. I didn't say I want my union with the partner, the soulmate. I said, I claim my union. And you can add adjectives. I claim my joyous union with my ideal partner for myself and herself now. So you bless what other people have that you are seeking to manifest, bless it with feeling, and then claim it for yourself. Bless what others have with strong emotion, with strong belief. I'm not a religious person, but this is taught in the Bible. There's some good principles in that book, as long as also I believe some not so good stuff, but that's me. You can pick, but there's some practical stuff in there.
Mhm.
So bless what other people have with true feeling, and then claim that for yourself without attachment.
I bless the Calm and Headspace app, and I claim 1 million subscribers for my HypnoCloud app.
You got to bless what a person has.
Okay. Yes, yes. I love it. I mean, I was kind of joking there,
I
but
know,
yes.
I could see from the laughter and the smile on your face. NECA went away. NECA went for her noontime nap.
Oh, Well, let's dive in a little deeper here to talking about another very potent piece of the puzzle here, which is pattern interrupts, and
Yeah.
how pattern interrupts can be very powerful to influence and change your life.
Yeah. Well, pattern interrupts. I got this idea for pattern interrupts. If I can tell it, I love telling stories. I never shut up. My girlfriend says I don't shut up, but she likes it. And I come from a family of talkers. Back when I was a dating coach, I had a student, really good guy, but he was one of those guys. If you ever met a guy, good heart, good brain, but he just was clueless around ladies. Like he was always the big brother, the buddy, the friend, but he didn't know how to bring his masculinity forth. So he's basically a girlfriend instead of the man. So this guy wanted me to take him out to a restaurant and show him how to meet women. And I hated doing that. I said, okay, it's $15,000 cash. He said, okay, let's pick a night. He comes over to my place and dumps $15,000 in cash on the couch. And I give it a quick count. I'm like, all right. We go out to this restaurant that has a lounge area, and he proceeds to strike out Victoria so badly. I don't know if you've ever seen any of these movies about World War II where the plane is hit and it's smoking and the pilot's trying to bail out, but he can't do it. I'm thinking like, punch out, eject. And it was so humiliating. I was turning red. Anyway, after getting a drink thrown in his face and getting slapped, I said, I'm getting him out of there. I'll eject him. We leave and we're standing out in the parking lot. I give
This reminds me a
credit.
little bit of that movie Hitch. And there's another movie it reminds me of, but I can't think of the title. I can't think of the actors. But
Anyway,
there's another movie. But anyway, please continue.
so we were out in the parking lot, and this is waiting for a taxi. And I saw a lovely lady about 15 feet away. And I said, no, there's a lovely lady waiting for her cab. Now, for some reason, it went in the wrong way. And she was furious. She turned red in the face, started screaming at me, saying things about my anatomy, that I should put one part in another, that was physiologically impossible. And anyway, would make a sailor turn pale. And my student got very angry. His veins on his forehead bulged, and he went to give her a piece of his mind. I stopped him. I said, no, she can come for wherever she wants. We decide how we respond. Look at her. She's someone's sister. She's someone's daughter. She's someone's best friend. Somewhere she's deeply loved. Now, she had a moment of confusion, and then she burst into tears and ran to me, threw her arms around me, and said, no one has ever spoken such words of love to me in my life. I just feel so much love for you right now. And she just sobbed like a baby. She said, I'm so sorry. Will you forgive me? It had nothing to do with you. Men have been pigs to me all night long. They've been grabbing my butt and saying the worst things. My heart is so open to you right now. And she said, what's your name? I said, Mr. Wonderful, here's our cab. We left. But the thing of it is, by interrupting her pattern, no, the pattern interrupt was, what would she expect? What would a normal guy have done? He would have either screamed back at her or apologized or ran away. I broke her expected pattern. Human beings move, think, expect, feel, react, behave in expected patterns. When you break that pattern, they become very malleable and suggestible, and you could lead them to a better place, whether that's selling them, whether that's healing them, whether that's influencing them to like you, or whether it's influencing yourself, breaking your own patterns. So pattern interrupts, as I teach salespeople, I teach a lot. I train a lot of salespeople, which I think is a very heroic job. Being a salesperson is being a hero, because to me, it's about expanding people's beliefs about what they deserve and what choices they can make that are beyond what they thought they had, where they had to stop. So example of the pattern interrupt for sales is, those of you who are entrepreneurs listening to this, I'm sure you've heard when you go to sell your programs or services or products. By the way, you're never selling a product or service. You're always selling decisions and good feelings about decisions. Mic drop. I just throw out these mic drops.
Say that again, just so, in case.
It's in my book, Subtle Words That Sell. In my book, Subtle Words That Sell, I have some principles. And the first one is you're never selling your product or service. You're always selling decisions and good feelings about decisions.
I like that. That's great. Selling decisions and good feelings about those decisions.
So if you've ever heard this one, this objection, I need more time to think it over.
Oh,
you ever heard that one?
Yeah.
So here's the pattern interrupt.
I've used it myself.
here's the pattern interrupt. What they're expecting you to say is, well, what can we do to make it okay for you to decide now? Or let's back up and say, what can I say this. Hey, I understand, Victoria. Can I ask you, have you ever had the experience of taking a long time to think something over and it still turned out to be a bad decision?
Yeah, that's a really good thing that people aren't really expecting to hear that.
And it's also true. So it takes the objection, essentially gives the person amnesia for the objection. It is a hypnotic pattern interrupt. And then I say, maybe it's not about time. And I pause. So they're going to think, well, what is it about? Maybe it's not about time, but about the clarity you need to recognize you really can move forward today. Ooh. So thinking about it like that, let's get everything out on the table and see, what do we need to clear up for you to recognize this is a great decision?
That's so brilliant. You're like masterful.
Well, thank you. This applies for everything. It applies to dating. Charitably, I'm a 7. My girlfriend's a 10 plus. I didn't do it on looks or anything like that. I use my words and language. Oh, your cat Sebastian just got up and walked around. I saw him. Daddy
just came home, and I don't know if you kind of heard the garage door open, but yeah, he had to go greet his daddy at the door. So it's very, very, this is amazing stuff. And it's funny that you mentioned the NLP, because part of my, I do have a chapter on that in my book on manifesting your soulmate, because, it is all about, being able to use some persuasive, communication skills and influencing people and getting into better rapport with people and all of that. So,
don't you think? Thank you. I never want to interrupt someone who's complimenting me. I'm going to shut up.
This is fantastic information. So you were going to ask.
Yeah. Can you hear me? Because the video is frozen.
Your video is frozen too. I can see myself and I can hear you.
Now I'm moving.
But you're frozen for me too. So here we're back.
Here we're back.
Okay, good.
We're back.
Moving into a couple other strategies. One of the things you talk about is 3 words that can unbind and destroy LBs. I like to call them LBs, limiting beliefs.
Yep.
First of all, tell us, about the limiting beliefs, and then how can we destroy those with these 3 magical words?
Well, we all know that we have limiting beliefs. I can't do something. I don't deserve to do something. I am. I never. I look at statements like, when I'm working with a client and I hear I am, I go, uh-oh, trouble. Or I never, or I always. I always seem to sabotage my finances, or I can never find the ideal person, or whatever it is. So one of the things about limiting beliefs, I'm going to say this and then we'll unpack the words, tell you what the words are. The unconscious mind, as you know, has no sense of time. Everything is happening now. Past, present, and future are taking place right now. This is part of the structure of a trauma. To the traumatized person, the trauma is happening right now. The landmine is exploding. The IED is hitting the truck. The car accident is happening right now. Right now. So one of the keys is to bind a negative experience or belief in time, to make it clearly in the past. So here are the magic words: up until now.
Up until now.
Up until now, it was my experience that I sabotaged my finances. So that's a true statement. Up until now, which says to the unconscious mind, I acknowledge there's been a problem. I'm not pretending there's not. Getting rapport with the unconscious is crucial, because in any battle, here's a law of the mind that I discovered. In any battle between the conscious and the unconscious mind will always win.
Mm-hmm.
Always.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. Mm-hmm.
So up until now has multiple purposes. It gets rapport with the unconscious. It binds the limitation in time. It says it used to be true, and it implies it no longer is. Up until now, it was my experience. So that's another part. It was my experience. So when you say it was my experience, it's no longer an absolute truth, and it's no longer about who you are. It's just an experience you had.
Yeah. What you
Up in,
experienced isn't necessarily
yeah,
the truth.
or define who you are.
Mm-hmm.
Up until now, it was my experience that I sabotaged my financial success.
Mm-hmm.
And you want to add in now something about learning and skills. And now I claim my learning of my skills to enjoy my financial success. Not,
That was great.
I don't want you to add on, and now I am financially successful, because that's a delusion. It's not true.
Right.
But you make it not about who you are, but about skills you can acquire. And here's why. As someone who's been doing change work for 30 years, and by the way, if you'd like to talk to me about doing change work with you, go to speakerpaulross.com/apply. I am the most expensive coach you can't wait to hire. So you have to open a pretty big checkbook, which is why I make people apply. But I do guarantee my work. If you don't get the change, you get your money back. No one offers that guarantee. Maybe you do, but I do. So if you're interested in applying to have me do some change work with you, speakerpaulross.com/apply. Anyway.
That's great. No, that's awesome. I really, yeah.
So when it comes to changing people, changing beliefs about identity is very difficult. If you've ever had the experience of knowing a friend who's quite attractive, and you give a compliment, you look great in that dress, and they say, yeah, I'm looking fat. They just can't hear it. So it's the same with beliefs about who you are. Beliefs about identity and beliefs about deservingness are relatively difficult. It can be done with a master. But beliefs about skills.
Paul just pointed to himself for those of you who are listening.
Or it can be done with a master. Mm-hmm. But beliefs about skills and learning are relatively easier to change. So if you say, up until now, it was my experience, I sabotaged my financial success. And then you say, and I am financially successful, that won't work. But if you say, and now I claim my learning of my skills, the mind says, oh, yeah, I can learn skills. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense. As a matter of fact, I wanted to dive in and ask you a little bit more about that, because, and you almost, you even included these words in there. This is something that I do. And, like if I am ever feeling doubtful or fearful or disappointed or frustrated or whatever it is, whatever the state is that I'm experiencing, and it just seems like, and what I do is I kind of tell a little story from my future self, and I will say, and I was sitting there, I literally start writing, and I was sitting there thinking about how and I used to feel this way, or I used to think that. And it's just like a little manifestation technique that I recently just
very powerful
came up
very
with.
Powerful. This is something they do in chaos magic, where they talk about creating a future self, a self that's already experienced the success that you're going to have for yourself, and reaches back through time to shape and mold you to be the kind of person with the kind of skills, actions, and beliefs who will already have enjoyed that success. In NLP, we work with people, we call it timeline, moving people on their timeline. In hypnosis, we call it pseudo-orientation in time. You can call it the future self ritual when it comes to magic or manifestation. There are different labels and metaphors for the same process. Now, how it actually works, I don't know. I don't know the underlying deep scientific mechanisms. I don't pretend to. I just know that whichever system you use with belief and intent and some kind of good map will work.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, and it's to me, it was just sort of I stumbled
With
upon
love.
it naturally. I just felt like, like this isn't me right now. Like I'm not in the very, like this is how I used to be, and so I like that word. Up until now, I was just curious if it would be just as powerful to state, this is how it used to be. Like I used to
I think up
experience
until now,
that.
I think up until now is just what's worked for me and
Yeah.
my dating coaching clients and the people I train for, entrepreneurs I train for mindset, everything. It's super powerful.
Awesome. Well, I have one last
Please,
area
I
that I want
love
to.
this. I
Yeah,
love
me
this.
too. Me,
I love gabbing.
me too. So, so what would you say are some of the more subtle roadblocks to our happiness, and how do we
Sure.
recognize and release those?
Well, I call this the cow sheep theory. Cows and sheep ruminate. Do you know what it means to ruminate? When a
Like
cow eats
gather,
grass,
hang around?
mm-mm,
No.
mm-mm,
Okay.
no, no, no. Mm-mm. When a cow eats grass, a cow has
Uh-huh.
two stomachs. It
Uh-huh.
swallows the grass and then throws it back up to chew on it, and then it swallows it again, and it goes down into the second stomach where it's digested.
Okay.
So human beings have a natural tendency to try to learn from their mistakes by dwelling on them. Back when I was a dating coach, I'd say, raise your hand if you made a big mistake with a woman who you had a crush on. Every hand went up. Then I'd say, how many of you have dwelt on that mistake over and over and over and asked yourself, why did I do that? Keep your hands up. Every hand stayed up. How many have dwelt on it at least 100 times? Keep your hands up. Every hand's up. 1,000 times. Every hand's up. How many have dwelt on it when you're driving in your car? Every hand is up. How about when you're going to sleep at night? Every hand is up. Now, here's the problem. It's not that they're self-sabotagers. It's not that they hate themselves. It's just that they have a crap learning strategy. In an effort to learn from the mistake, they're focusing on it. And what you focus on is what you get. The mind can't, here's another law of the mind I'm going to throw out there that I came up with. The mind can't tell the difference between what you dwell on and what you're rehearsing and programming it to do. So of course, when you go back out into the world in that same context, you're going to repeat the mistake. It's no mystery to it. It's just programming. So
Yeah.
what people need to do is to learn to have an effective learning strategy. Everyone talks about learn from every experience, but no one tells you how. Have you ever heard that advice? Learn from every mistake and experience?
Of course. Yeah. We've
Does
all,
anyone does
learn from your past.
does anyone ever give you a specific technique to do so?
Most people do not.
It drives me I almost swore. Drives me flipping crazy because it's useless. It's like your car is broken down in the desert. The battery on your cell phone is about to die. You reach a mechanic, describe what's going on. He says, "Oh, you just have to replace the Fragistat with the Who's It," and the phone. Have a good time.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
if I
as a
could do
matter of
that,
fact, I find most books that I read a lot, this is one of the reasons why, practical law of attraction is what it is, because I have this like, well, how I'm so curious. I want to know how to do it. Like, I can't just gloss over that part of the book. When I hear somebody say, "Oh, just do this," I want to know how to do it. So I totally agree with you. Most people don't give you the how. And
and yeah,
I feel
and
like
this
you're
is
about to tell us.
no, because this is an intricate, deep. This requires. I'm not teasing. It's a deep training,
Ooh.
but one thing I will say is when it comes to sales training, there are a lot of good trainings out there. What sets me apart is I'm layering in the power of subconscious languaging, as you've experienced here. But I'm also teaching, I have a whole training series on learning from your mistakes. And I haven't seen a sales training that teaches that. They teach motivation. You motivate yourself positively to enthusiastically keep moving in the wrong direction and to enthusiastically keep repeating your mistakes, which is not a good thing. But I'm not trying to tease. It's a long, intricate thing to teach. Once you get it, you get it. But it takes, this would be like a 3 or 4 hour training that we don't have time for it.
Yeah. And that's something that people can find out about by going to your website. And
again, it's a big checkbook to open if you want to hire me. And I am the most expensive trainer and coach you can't wait to hire, but you do have to apply. So here's the cool thing. About 30% of the time when people talk to me, right then and there, it's just a few adjustments and they're off on their way. And because you can see how good a teacher I am here. But
absolutely. Yeah, I can definitely see that a person would get a lot of value from going and learning from you. And I just really feel blessed and honored that we had the opportunity today
come on.
to go through some of the, you're good. Your language is impeccable with the strategies and the approaches. It sounds like, you're in alignment with the work that you do. And we've learned a lot here, haven't we, guys? Say yes. If you feel like you've learned a lot here today. So thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with our audience of Power of Your Mind podcast. And for those of you on Power of Your Mind podcast or watching here on the YouTube channel, go ahead and go to speakerpaulross.com. And you have a PDF or an audio training as well there that they can get a hold of? Or
I do, but that's more for salespeople. So if you're a salesperson, you can go to Paul Ross' book. I have a free sales training there. If you want to apply to work with me, speakerpaulross.com/apply. One thing I want to say, move forward with love in your heart and laser precision in your brain. Laser-like precision in your brain and overflowing love in your heart. If you don't have overflowing love in your heart, life ain't going to work. If you don't have laser-like precision, you'll have lots of sentiment, but it won't turn into reality. So I combine that laser precision with language that you've heard with the love in my heart that I've developed through my meditation practice. You need to have both. Too many people in this field are woo-woo, come from the heart. I get it. You need to, but you better combine it with laser-like precision with your thinking and with language.
Great advice. Thank you so much.
Thank you.